What do you see here? Understanding this is understanding the key reason that Real Madrid absolutely tore Manchester City apart, and maybe a rare sign of, rather than Pep setting the modern tactical trend, him ignoring it instead at his own peril. So what were the tactics on display? Let's take a look at Madrid in possession first. When Real Madrid were building up from deep, whether on goal kicks or in open play, City had one thing on their mind: apply as much pressure as they could high up. But they stuck by an odd pressing structure that we've seen this season. But tonight, they were punished for it. Semenyo from attacking midfield would push high alongside Haaland, with Bernardo now having to push higher than Rodri in order to tie up the double pivots. And initially, Rodri would remain deep. But why is that? Well, this press often depends on the wingers staying extremely narrow to help cut off the supply here, making sure that Bernardo would not be outnumbered high up the pitch and allowing Rodri to maintain his focus on the highest Madrid midfielder. And there were occasions that City were able to pull this off. But with the Madrid fullbacks and Trent in particular always being options, City's wingers weren't disciplined enough in tucking in and could be drawn wider, meaning that if Madrid did start short, one of the pivots would often become the free man, allowing Madrid to potentially play out. But like we said, City wanted to stop the play at source rather than having to drop deep and defend here. So Rodri would prioritize pushing up to cut out the easy option to the pivots, hopefully forcing Courtois, who's not renowned as a ball-playing goalkeeper, to play safe and go long instead, potentially resulting in a turnover. But the problem came when Madrid did not go long, of course, because these massive spaces between the lines meant that Güler, as the attacking midfielder, would be able to take advantage if Madrid did find that line-breaking pass or even a chip from deeper on the field. But here's the thing, for most top teams like a Bayern or an Arsenal in 2026, this situation wouldn't have been that big a deal, as their game plan defensively hinges on man-to-man marking. But Pep opted not to follow this modern trend, meaning that there was room between the lines. And the only thing better than having a man free between the lines is having two men free between the lines. And Brahim Diaz soon began to join, so that the pair were operating as dual 10s or dual false 9s, consistently being easier and easier to find as the match wore on. And again, Ruben Diaz and Guehi in that first half in particular seemed petrified to follow men deep. And let's take a step back, because while yes, the City centre-backs were reluctant to press even before Madrid opened the scoring, the opening goal might have been what convinced them to stay glued to the halfway line for the majority of the rest of the match. Because we see City here in their usual press shape, and this is one of the rare occasions that Guehi does try to apply pressure higher up. And a combination of O'Reilly being caught the wrong side of the ball and the aggressive out-to-in run from Valverde into the space vacated by Guehi leads to the opener. But the centre-back staying deep did not give the citizens more defensive solidity. In fact, it only delayed the inevitable, as we saw for Valverde's second goal. City have their usual press with Semenyo high, and as Mendy receives, Savinho is forced to press, which opens up space, and we see both Diaz and Güler greedy to move into the space between the lines to receive. And it's Diaz who receives, and drives into the City half essentially unchallenged, eventually leading to the goal. As the second half progressed, City were looking for more ways to adapt to this effective build-up shape, with Bernardo and Rodri fully staggering, with the Spaniards' main responsibility now being watching the space between the lines. But with the centre-backs remaining deep, the plan did not have to change much for Madrid, as Rodri would still be 2 versus 1 down between the lines. And Madrid were even more aggressive with this, as an additional deep midfielder could join the between the lines overload, knowing that Bernardo would still be drawn higher up by Tchouaméni, for example. So the danger between the lines was still open. So even though Madrid often had less of the ball, this tactical problem for City meant that Los Blancos often looked a lot more dangerous. And the temptation is to focus only on what Madrid did on the ball in such an emphatic victory. But let's examine what happened when City were on the ball and what Madrid were looking to do defensively. And just before we look at that, don't forget, if you're interested in elevating your tactical knowledge, sign up for Football Fundamentals through the link down below. Football Fundamentals is my 30-day program that will teach you the basics of analysis absolutely free. In the second half, we saw a Madrid much more willing to press, but in the first, their main focus was on being compact, initially looking to sit in a 4-4-2 mid-block with Güler alongside Vinicius, meaning that City were able to get out of their own half pretty easily for the most part. And once they did get high up the pitch, City shifted into a rough 3-4-3 diamond, with Savinho and Doku providing the width. And the Blues did have success through the centre at times, with these three outnumbering the double pivot, and Haaland even dropping deep to join in at times. So the defensive focus came on the wingers, but they operated quite differently because of the different makeup of the City flanks. Down the right, Savinho often got isolations, but he wasn't the biggest one-on-one threat, so the focus for Arda Güler was on remaining narrow and keeping an eye on Semenyo. Why? Well, when Güler got caught too wide or pressing high up, it opened up the potential for Semenyo to receive in the right-hand half space to turn and attack the backline. But the situation was a lot different down the left. Doku against Trent was a genuine mismatch, with the Belgian constantly getting past his man and hitting the byline, though not getting the most dangerous deliveries in. And this was aided by O'Reilly pushing high into the half space to initially force Trent narrow, allowing Doku to receive. So where Güler was high and narrow, Valverde soon had to drop into the backline to form a back five and allow Trent to get touch tight quicker, and the Uruguayan to provide support as well, which was effective, as between the pair of them they were often able to at least block Doku's crosses into the box. And though Pep did make second half changes, they were primarily personnel changes rather than tactical ones. Overall, this was a dominant performance by Madrid, combined with being supremely clinical with their chances, while Manchester City never made the most of any of their half chances and attacking situations. But what did you make of the match? And how do you think the second leg will go? Drop it down in the comments below. And don't forget to sign up for Football Fundamentals for free through the link down below.